Welcome to your online coffee break, where we discuss bite-sized topics that inspire, educate, and entertain. Here's your host, a software innovator, award-winning marketer, and astronomy and space buff, Chuck Fields.
Hello, thanks for joining me today for your online coffee break. Today I'd like to introduce my special guest, Chris Bender. Chris is a top 25 Billboard Gospel artist from Massachusetts. Chris won Artist of the Year, Angelic Award in 2014, and Best New Single, Eddy Award in 2019 for his first single, More of You. His recent single, The Blood Song, debuted at number 22 on the Billboard charts. Chris's latest single, Glad in It, is climbing the charts and has a wonderful Christian message for anyone going through trying times.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Yeah, that's it. Come on, let's go. I will be glad. I will be glad. Yeah. Oh, come on, put your hands on it. I will be glad. Let's go to verse 2. He gave it to me.
Online coffee break.
Now, Chris, I love your music. I love how you focus on God. I'm a fellow Christian believer out there. But I love your story. I think you were just 13 years old when you found your calling to minister through worship. I think that's an incredible age for that. Can you share that story a little bit more? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. For the longest time, I grew up in a home, number one, that was very God-fearing. I call myself a pew baby because I grew up in church. I literally grew up in church.
Nice.
There wasn't a great differentiation between like a normal life and a church. There was no balance. Like it was just church all day, every day, late night revivals till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep, get up at 8 for school and do it all over again for a week straight, that type of stuff.
That's intense.
But growing up in that environment, I grew I developed a very early desire to know God for myself and to have a devoted life as a Christian because there was a lot of individuals in my family that didn't have that. They grew up in church for a period of time, but of course, when they had the option to choose not to, they chose not to because they were overwhelmed. And for me, ministry in church and God himself became a personal desire for me. I loved it. I love him, and I always wanted to ensure that I lived a life that was one of impact and that could change other lives. And so growing up in church, I've always seen ministry, know it like the back of my hand. I promise you, I'm probably like the jack of all trades when it comes to church. I can probably preach, I can raise the offering, I can usher, I can lock the church up, all that. I can run the sound, I can do everything. I can play the drums, I can do everything you want,
That's awesome.
Because growing up for 20 years in church, that's all you get to see is how to, and so I grew up as a very observant young man. My grandmother, who was a very, very strong influence for me, showed me so much without teaching. She showed me how to serve, and she taught me how to be humble, and she taught me how to stay in your lane and know your place and make sure that you're not doing more or doing less than what you're capable of doing. And it helped me to understand ministry and God and how to be that individual and be confident in that. And then on top of that, I come from a bloodline full of singers. My mother was a professional vocalist, a background vocalist, excuse me.
Really?
Absolutely. For a couple of the world's greatest back in the 80s into the 90s. And then my uncle, who is her baby brother, Chris Bender, who I was named after, is also a world-renowned, he was a world-renowned R&B artist who was signed with East West Records. And right after his major release of his first album or his second album, he was murdered in 1991. So, I come from a very strong bloodline of very, very serious musicians And, I've been left with this assignment and a lot of shoes to fill. But I choose not to fill the shoes. I try to create my own path and honor theirs in the same process.
See, Chris, I think that's wonderful. And you've also, my gosh, you've had this amazing music career. You've worked alongside of some pretty top gospel artists. I mean, you have Shirley Caesar, known as the first lady of gospel music, incredible voice.
Right.
And then Donnie McClurkin and Fred Hammond. Tell us more about that. That's incredible.
Man, I usually attribute that, if I can use church terminologies without spooking you out too much, I usually attribute that to God's favor on my life, man. I've really been blessed to be able to, it's not even so much about what I know. It wasn't always about my level of skill or accolade. It was more so about being in the right room at the right time, and being able to make an impact on someone's life who was then back in return dedicated to ensuring that there was a blessing that came to my life and my music career because of my ability to just be who my grandmother taught me to be, humble and welcoming and nice and always able and ready to serve, And so most of these abilities, like working with Pastor Shirley Caesar, I sung with her one time. She came into Boston and kind of like gave the mic out to some individuals and I was like maybe 13, 14.
Wow.
And then full circle, right? Full circle, come back in like maybe 2014 to 2017, I was serving in an organization that she is actually the ambassador of worship and arts for. So it's completely full circle, man. It's literally what I consider the favor of God on my life. He just really blesses me. And I'm really humbled at all of the opportunities that I've had to share the mic and the stage with some of the world's greatest individuals.
It is amazing how God always has a plan. And sometimes we just don't see it. And it's amazing how it comes around and you're like, he was working all the time.
He was
right there in front of you.
It's literally like it's like almost like a cable technician. It's like he's behind the TV, like tweaking the cables and stuff. And like I'm looking at a great picture that I didn't know was going to come.
I love that analogy. One thing I want to ask you about, Chris, too, because 2014, big year for you. That was when you first got the Artist of the Year Angelic Award. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you know what's so crazy about that? This story is going to take you out of here. So I'm sitting there, Chuck. I'm sitting there at the award show, and I knew I won that thing. I knew it. But, okay, grandma's rules. Stay humble.
Yep.
Stay in your place. Do just as much as you are capable of doing, right? So they called somebody else's name.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
They called somebody else's name. And
The
so
nerve.
literally, Chuck, my knees were getting ready to stand up, and I heard the other person's name, and I was so dumbfounded, like, I didn't win. Wow. Okay. 3 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail, a phone call, and a package with the award. Somebody delivered the wrong cue card to the presenter, and they called the wrong name. Imagine that.
Oh, wow. And the award had your name on it, right?
And the award had my name on it. It was like, okay, all right, God, okay. But I'm telling you, that moment, I've been nominated for about 3 or 4 awards since.
Yeah, incredible.
That moment I'll never forget, because you don't know when the odds might not be in your favor. And it doesn't mean that you're less of an artist, you're less of an incredible creative because you don't get the award. It just means that it's not your time, And that heartbreak that I felt that night, right? I'll never forget it. I was maybe like 18, 19 or so. I took an Uber to the award show. The Uber, I hit the wrong button on the Uber, and I got a luxury car. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cheap. It was $100.
Oh,
right?
wow. Ouch.
I didn't know how I was going to make that money back. I had a credit card. Like, it was crazy, right? But that moment and that level of heartache and anguish that I had to not, to understand I did not win taught me so much about how to understand who I'm doing this for to start, so that I'm never thrown off when they don't call my name.
That is so key. That is so key, right? Remember who you're doing it for. God is right there for. I think that's wonderful. I want to talk about your amazing songs. I want to go back, though, to your first song, the first single you came out with, More of You. I love that song. Tell our audience a little bit more about that song.
Okay, more of you, and I'll reiterate this a couple of times throughout our interview time, man.
Sure.
God always gives me songs for seasons. I don't write a lot of songs. I write literally. I have to He gives me the song. I can't say it any other way. He gives me the song, and I go with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I wrote this song while I was in Europe on a tour.
Nice.
I was in a sound check in Europe on tour. And I started just singing the melody. Whoa, 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 God, we need more of you. And continued to develop the song throughout the months that I was out of the country. Came back home and literally fell into this position where everything that I thought was going to be sustainable for me was no longer sustainable for me. And I needed more of God. And so that's how that song came to be.
See, and all of us need more God too. And I love this too, because then you came out with the Blood song, your second song, debuted at number 22 on the Billboard charts. That's a pretty nice debut.
Lift your hands and see, Let's take it from the top. Let's go. You say, without the blood of Jesus, there would be no remission of sin. We overcome by the blood.
Tell us a little bit more about that song.
All right, so the Blood song I actually recorded in a live recording that I did in 2017. Mm-hmm. Took a year to kind of get my mind around how to work the song and how to prepare it for release, because I wasn't really sold on releasing that song. I was going to do another song. And my team, shout out to the team that was in place then, Dom and Carolyn and Shamika and everybody else. They really pushed no, Chris, this is the one. And so after being strongly convinced that was the song, I went forth ahead with my producer at the time, one of my really good friends, my brother, Sean Alexander. And we shelled that song out, man. And that song, I released it the weekend of Easter. So it was the perfect timing. It was what better way to celebrate Easter weekend than to sing about the blood of Jesus Christ? So It was definitely a very timely message, a very fun tune. Shout out to Deshandra Perry, who was the guest vocalist on that song. Very, very phenomenal song. And I learned a lot between more of you and the Blood song about production. Learned a lot more about my sound and what I needed and what I wanted. And was able to execute that with that team appropriately. And so, I love that song. Definitely.
I think your songs, something that really caught me is, they're so deep and they are so fun. Yeah. And I have to bring up, your latest release, Glad in It. I mean, the message is so powerful. It's about turning to God for that better perspective when you're going through those major trials that life throws at you, but the song is so upbeat. Yeah. Tell us more about the meaning behind it.
Oh, well, again, Chuck, God gives me songs for seasons. And this one is not much different than any other. I was literally, when I first started writing the song, I'll never forget, I was in Connecticut. I was a guest worship leader at a church. And they had a preacher there that had prophesied to me. A prophecy is like a word from God. And so he told me, he was like, you think that the Blood song is going to be your song. But he said, there is a song that's coming after a song, which means after you sing a song, God is going to download something to you, right? So fast forward, right? So now we're in mid 2019, later the summer or something like that. I don't remember. And I had finished leading worship at a church and I sat down. Craziest thing. And so I'm sitting there and I'm hearing, I think I was hearing, the enemy wants you to quit. So I start hearing the lyrics. I'm like, I hear the melody as well. Now, normally, if I'm writing a song that God has given me, he doesn't usually give me both of them at the same time. It's either lyric or melody. This song came at the same time. Wow. So I'm sitting there. I had just finished singing a song, like a top 100. And now I'm hearing a song. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is what the preacher man was telling me. There's a song coming after the song. So I jumped up in the middle of the sermon being preached like a crazy man, I'm ruffling through a bag, looking for my phone so I can do a voice memo. and run outside, and in the middle of Columbia Road in Boston, Massachusetts, I recorded the voice memo for Glad in It, and that's how the song was birthed. But I've received most of the song within a day.
Really?
Yeah, and
that
so I reached out to my MD, Will Woods, who kind of helped me to the beginning processes, kind of helped me to kind of figure stuff out musically, and it's been history ever since. And so then I brought it to Will Davis and Bart Orr and Jannard Carter, the production team for it now, and they really brought it to life. And there's not much that many would hear that I don't hear first. I hear like the bells and the chimes and the drums and the organ and everything that I need for the production. God lets me hear first so that I can give direction to the production team on what it is that needs to be played. So it's a really, writing music is intense for me because God makes me live what I'm writing. So, it's been like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's almost like I've been living in like a segment of the Days of Our Lives. Remember that old soap opera?
I do.
It's like, oh my God, it goes from one extreme to the next. But I've learned to take it all with stride because my life again has been commissioned to be of help to somebody else. And so I know that I'm not experiencing anything that I'm not going to be able to come out of. Right. And then two, I'm not going to experience anything that is not going to be meant for somebody else to be blessed by. So everything about this song, just like every other song, has been it's been a journey, and it's been one that I wouldn't trade for the world, because it's something about the journey for me that teaches me a different level of humility, and it shows me a little more of God than what I knew before. So I love it.
Chris, I love your inspiration. I love your message too. You have this powerful ministry and this powerful message.
Thank you.
I want to get kind of deep. Let's go deep. We've got maybe there's some listeners out there right now that are listening. Maybe they're not believers yet. Maybe they're thinking about it. They just haven't taken that step. Yeah. We've seen so much transformation for people who have accepted the Lord. What would you say to them right now if they're on the fence?
I would say, what do you have to lose? I would pose a question. If you embarking on a relationship with the Lord is a try, it's an attempt. What do you have to lose? I feel like there are so many opportunities for individuals to doubt and to automatically just rule it out, like, oh, we don't need God. But what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You get something else. You get an entity that you can talk to. You get a peace and a certain comfort that you really can't find in man. You get consistency from a God that literally you can't find. There has been so many times in my life, right, where I have chosen willingly because, okay, I'm Christian, I'm not a Superman, so I do make mistakes. We all do, and you will too, right? There's been times where I've diluted my time with God because I've had time or the attention of some other physical feature or physical individual with me, right? And they've done what I've always known them to do. Either disappoint me, walk away, lose their consistency, change up, whatever. And I go right back to the base that I knew would never change. It's like, God, I knew you would never leave me because your word told me you'd never leave me, nor you'd forsake me. You'd be with me to the end of the world. So I say all that to say, if you're questioning whether or not you should give this Jesus or this God thing a try, I ask you the question, what do you have to lose? Why not?
So much to gain and so much to
Why
gain.
not? So much to gain.
Chris, those are wonderful words. I just want to thank you for just taking time to join us today, for sharing your awesome music. Chris, It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Chuck, thank you so much. And God bless you, man. God bless you. Much love to you.
Online coffee break.
Well, I really enjoyed my conversation with Chris today, and I'm loving his single, Glad in It. I strongly suggest you check it out. If you'd like to learn more, just go to his website at iamchrisbender.com, or just check the show notes. I'll put links in there to the website and his social media as well. Again, I want to thank Chris for joining us today. I want to thank you for joining us as well. We certainly do appreciate it. As usual, we'd appreciate this if you would share this episode with a friend or give us a like or subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast application you're listening to. We'd appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. God bless.